The tight end is my friend, and we are in week 16. Let's rank these big booty boys for fantasy football. Playoffs are here. Let's talk about these guys. It's make or break weeks. Here is how I would start these guys. This is not always a prediction of final score. Tight end is an incredibly volatile position because it's just who gets a touchdown. And that really, we can jump in, is the story of Dallas Goedert on this year. In the red zone, if the Eagles think they can score with a Dallas Goedert touchdown, they will, and often they do. They don't go for it every week, though. So there are weeks where Dallas Goedert will get multiple touchdowns like he did last week. There are weeks where it becomes a Devonta Smith game as the second pass catcher, and it's not a lot of Dallas Goedert. I've got him ranked at 5 this week. He's taken on the Commanders, who allow the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So I think it's a great matchup for Dallas Goedert. Got him at 5. We'll jump back up to the top, though, and then kind of work our way down. Sometimes we move up and down on these guys, but Trey McBride, there's not a ton to say. Against any matchup, even though the Falcons have been a harder matchup for fantasy tight ends, Trey McBride is excellent. He's the lead option in his offense. They have been throwing quite a bit. A lot of passing yards for the Cardinals in the past 6-7 weeks with Jacoby Brissett, not winning the games, but a lot of passing yards and a lot more touchdowns this year compared to last year for Trey McBride. Kind of just glazing the guy that if you have him, you're starting him. Let's try to spend a little bit more time further down this list. George Kittle at 2, Brock Bowers with Kenny Pickett. We can move him further down against the Texans. This is another one of those situations where it's like the talent is immense for Brock Bowers. Some of the catches that he's made are phenomenal. And I would start him in most matchups ahead of a lot of these other guys. Some people get a little bit cheeky and would put someone like Fannin ahead of Bowers or Darren Waller. People have asked me if they could start him ahead of Bowers. I would not. With tight ends, a lot of the time you're just saying on the season, this guy's going to heavily out, like someone like Brock Bowers is going to outproduce a lot of these guys further down the ranks. But week to week, it might be different, but it's not that predictable. So I'm just going to be rolling with Bowers. Kyle Pitts, monster game. Was this the Kyle Pitts breakout? I would have a hard time saying that, but I like the matchup against the Cardinals is really what this boils down to. Multiple teams have scored 40 points against the Cardinals in the past 2 months. Can Atlanta do it? I don't know. I don't know that Atlanta's offense is significantly worse than someone like the Texans. So I think Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts will be able to move the ball against the Cardinals. Fannin has had an excellent relationship with the new quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. The connection has been there, 2 rookies. It's been hitting. It's a lot of targets for Fannin. And what you're looking for in a situation like this, when you're ranking tight ends, you can't ignore massive amounts of targets. Targets are something that are earned, and all year Harold Fannin has been earning targets, and it's been slightly higher with Shedeur Sanders there. So I like Harold Fannin quite a bit going forward. Colby Parkinson, this one is kind of a call my own shot. With no Davante Adams, how does this team change? I expect that it will be more running, probably a little bit more Blake Corum if there's no Davante Adams. Like they don't just, if a team loses a wide receiver, they don't just move Jordan Whittington into Davante Adams' role. It'll go to other spots on the offense. They have positional tags, but they're all offensive players. So I think Colby Parkinson could see a little bit more work. I think it could be the running backs as well. Parkinson's been finding the end zone a ton this year, pretty consistently. So I like Colby Parkinson. I've got him at 7. Darren Waller, speaking of people that find the end zone, I checked the stats on this, and it was something close to 6 starts, 5 touchdowns, or 5 starts, 5 touchdowns. It's that level of range where he's close to a touchdown a game. After Monday night's game, Mike McDaniel said, hey, we should have gotten Darren Waller involved more. I'm not sure if they're limiting him based on injury risk. He started the year injured. He's an older player. He got injured again. I think he got up over 60% snaps on Monday night. So if he's seeing 70% of the snaps against the Bengals, the team that allows the most fantasy points to tight ends, I think he's a pretty good start. Jake Ferguson is one of these guys that is just kind of old, reliable. Got him at 9. Nothing too flashy. He always has a good chance of getting in the end zone. And you know he's going to get some targets on the week. I like Jake Ferguson. Dalton Schultz, to me, is just like a worse Jake Ferguson. Pretty sure Dalton Schultz used to play on the Cowboys and was in that Jake Ferguson role. Like, it's just the Cowboys throw to the tight end. Dalton Schultz has been worse in Houston. It's a tougher matchup against the Raiders in terms of tight end production, but I think he's still going to get his. For the Texans, it's really Nico Collins, then Dalton Schultz, and then a mess of rookies. And if Christian Kirk is healthy, he would be in that mix as well, but he hasn't been playing in quite a while. So it's just Collins, Schultz, and then Hutchinson, Knoll, and Higgins, all kind of splitting up the rest. I think Dalton Schultz is someone you can use. Travis Kelce without Pat Mahomes. How do we feel about him? He still knows how to get open. So I've got him at 11. Right before recording this, I saw a notification saying Rashee Rice is in the concussion protocol. So we might swap him here based on that news. Not a ton higher. Kelce and Rashee Rice do kind of operate in a similar parts of the field, over the middle, finding soft spots in zone. If there's no Rashee Rice, I do like Kelce a smidge more. And this offense would shift to Worthy, Kelce, they're kind of crummy running backs, and then maybe more Thornton and Hollywood Brown. So I think Travis Kelce still has room for fantasy production. Let's talk Tyler Warren. I still like Tyler Warren. I think he's an immensely talented tight end. If you watched the game on Sunday with Phillip Rivers, like, they were trying to get the ball to Tyler Warren. When a player doesn't have fantasy success, it does help to look at, like, well, were they trying to have fantasy success with that player? And they were. Early and often they were targeting Tyler Warren, just didn't quite connect. And then, we got to the end of the game, the Colts lost and Tyler Warren had a bad day. It would not surprise me if he bounced back this week against the 49ers. Now we start getting into more of these, sometimes they have a good game players. Brenton Strange, Oronde Gadsden, Colson Loveland, Theo Johnson, Juwan Johnson, Dalton Kincaid. I would kind of draw this tier of Strange, Gadsden, Loveland, Johnson. Sometimes they have good games. They're typically the lead tight end on their team. Like Gadsden, there's still a couple of other guys that get passes. Colston Loveland is still somewhat competing with Cole Kmet for targets, but Colston Loveland is getting more and getting more of the valuable targets and end zone targets. So I like these guys. They're all okay starts. And then we get to Dalton Kincaid, who has been better or is now back from injury, but it's just kind of a mix. Is it Dalton Kincaid? Is it Dawson Knox? I'm seeing a lot of Dawson Knox still getting used, which was true early on in Kincaid's career. People expected Kincaid to come in and immediately take over the tight end role and be a third receiver for the Bills. And that story has somewhat faded away. He wasn't ever going to become a big slot wide receiver. He's a tight end, and Dawson Knox ends up getting a lot of those tight end targets as well, more than we would like. So I've got Kincaid at 18. He's pretty good shot for a touchdown. I mean, if you put Kincaid up here, I wouldn't think you were crazy. Like, the difference between 13 and 17 really isn't all that much for me. And we could just leave him in this range as well. Hunter Henry at 20. We could probably move him up here. I would start Hunter Henry for sure over Hawkinson, who's been getting more targets with JJ McCarthy. If we tell a story of what's happened with JJ McCarthy this year, he was pretty rough to start the year, then got injured, then came back and was really, really bad. And then had a couple games where he was targeting tight ends, multiple tight end touchdowns in one game with Oliver catching 2 of them and then Hawkinson getting another. And now, after that week, we saw a week of McCarthy targeting the tight ends a little bit more and Hawkinson having another okay game. Is that the track record? Is that the path for McCarthy's success? Like hitting these tight end targets and then adding in more targets to the receivers? Possibly. I've got Hawkinson at 21. He's someone you can go with. Mark Andrews at 23. We're just looking for a touchdown. Could he be all the way up here if he gets a touchdown? If that's the way you view it, like, he could end up with 3 targets, 2 catches, and no touchdown. I think it's just the targets that would keep him down in the range where I originally had him. He's just not drawing enough targets. He's a good red zone option. Some weeks he's not going to get that. These guys feel like they have slightly safer floors than a Mark Andrews. And then Dawson Knox, who we've talked about, like, it's possible that Kincaid just gets healthier and takes more snaps and a larger role in that offense. So Dawson Knox is still kind of knocks in at the ranks, but I've got him at 23. And then these other guys are viable tight end options. If you started them, I wouldn't think you're crazy, but I would, K. Dot, and I would start 25 guys before him. So we're at the end of the tight end rankings. If this helps you decide who to start at tight end, let me know. Let me know. Because tight ends, it's tough to rank. You make these ranks and then you're going to look wrong. I think that's why a lot of people don't do tight end rankings. It's a very volatile position, mostly based on touchdowns. But if this helps you, let me know with a like, a subscribe, a comment on how you might change the rankings. The whole game is just us valuing people differently. So let me know if you value someone differently. If you're looking for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver rankings, we'll have a link to one of those on screen at this time as we close out the video. Otherwise, best of luck to you in your playoff matchup. Thank you very much for making it to the end, and I will see you in the next one.